Elevated Grapes Podcast.
Elevated Grapes Podcast.
With your host, Sethee.
Your host, Sethee.
And stylist, Rashi Bindra.
It's time to get started.
Let's talk fashion, shall we? Welcome to Elevated Grapes. I am your host, Sethee.
And I'm stylist Rashi Bindra and your co-host for Elevated Grapes, guys.
So Rashi's thing is, she's like, I'm always ready. I don't need to do anything. I'm like, yeah, we know that. You've got to sit there with your face and just show it on camera.
Exactly. And my face is amazing, you know? I mean, I'm glad the hair is coming back on your face, so that's good, but I'm still dying of laughter.
It was a rough week. And not because I had to go anywhere. Like, I was literally sitting at home, but it was rough because I had to look at it myself. And I'm like, what is happening to my face? Why does my face look like that?
Oh my gosh, she's like, I saw your photo, yeah, and I was like, it's a good thing things are shut down, because who would he hit on? I was more concerned about your love life at this point. I was like, the poor guy would not get a date right now.
Hey, you'd be surprised.
That's a whole other box that I'm not going to go into.
So Rashi was like, yo, I need a photo of you to put on our Instagram for the grid. And I'm like, you have one. She's like, you look upset. And I'm like, I am upset. I'm like, it depicts my life perfectly. Use it.
You look so sad in it. It was like, I was like, first I thought, what the hell happened to him? Is this an older picture when he was a kid? Then when you told me, no, you like shaved your face, I was like, I feel I should call like World Vision or like UNICEF or something. He looks really.
Somebody send some donations my way. I need some help ASAP. Absolutely. Your mind was thinking in the right direction for sure.
That's why we're a team.
That's it. Well, we're not going to sit here and talk about my face all day long. So firstly, I was got to point out I'm dressed a little bit casual today, and the reason is because I'm wearing the Ruckus Avenue t-shirt, which is the radio show that we're syndicated on. So big shouts out to them. And I was like,
yeah.
I'm going to keep the t-shirt on just because we got to give a little bit of representation for our crew that's there for us and syndicating us all around the state. So it's pretty cool too.
I should be wearing mine, but in all honesty, I don't have it.
This wasn't planned. They sent us a whole bunch of other good stuff, and I have yet to use that. So that'll probably be in another couple of shows we'll be wearing.
Yes.
I'll wait for Rashi to get hers. We'll wait for Rashi to get hers, and then we'll wear them.
Be great.
Okay.
And if those who are just hearing this, I did my dance, which I'm not allowed to do in public, but I just did it. So yeah.
Yeah. So today we're gonna, we talk about this topic quite a bit, and I think it's an important one, especially right now, as Rashi and I were sort of discussing our topics going forward and some of the ideas that we have. We thought this would be, we were going to wait a little bit, I think, on this just because we've done it a few times, but I don't think you can ever shed enough light to the topic of mental health and wellness. It is Mental Health Day coming up. Rashi, I don't know the exact date, and that's terrible for me to say. It is coming up. And so
no, I think by the time we put this out, it would have it's like a day that would have actually passed. But I believe they're now dedicating the entire month of October to mental health awareness, so we're fine.
So either way, there's never a bad time for it. Now it's just it's more in the limelight, so it's important to continue to talk about it. I think a lot of our shows end up touching on it in one shape or the other, no matter who the guest is, no matter what the topic is, because it's a regular conversation amongst everybody that is going through anything. And I think every person who's, whether they're an entrepreneur, building a business, a designer, someone who's in the wellness space, it touches on everybody at some point in their life. So there's always a point of it that's in our conversation. But we love to dedicate shows specifically to it because it deserves the attention because it is such a big topic.
And also especially this year, right? Like, I mean, last year was when we first introduced the topic and we spoke about some of our personal experiences about my journey into it. And I feel this year a lot of people are talking about it a lot more openly because COVID has changed a lot of things. And even for those who were not suffering any trauma or any mental illnesses, they are going through that because the psychological impact of what we've gone through this year and what we're going to be going through in the next next year even is going to take its toll on us. I mean, it's and I was having this conversation with a friend earlier today as well. It's really like initially it's great to have that, oh, I can work from home, I'm in my PJs, I'm on my Zoom calls, I don't have to leave my house anywhere. But eventually what happens, that psychological fear of going to a normal restaurant when we can now, since we're all back up in a partial like lockdown here at least, where we can, or how you want to interact with others, or leaving that comfort of just getting on your Zoom and meeting with people, it's going to start taking a toll, and a different set of anxiety starts coming in. Now, you add that with people who are already maybe going through depression, going through anxiety, those who suffer borderline personality disorder, um, all of that, it just adds to it, and it starts taking a very different toll in their nervous system, in on their emotional state and their mental state. So it's been a rough year for like a lot of people.
And I think it's going to continue to be like you mentioned. Like if we're touching specifically on COVID for the current portion of this show, I mean, no one really knows the outcome of that, when it's where it's going to go, when it's going to end, how it's going to transform, and that anxiety of what's going to be next for me, what's going to be next for my kids, what's going to be next for my family. Whether you're teachers in school, like so think about them and how difficult it is for them dealing with other people's children and having to monitor and care for them while they're looking out for themselves too.
Mm-hmm.
Frontline workers, nurses, doctors, all of them. And there are these brave people out there doing things every day to take care of all of us. And what's the impact on them long term to their mental health because of this? I mean, everything takes its toll. They're out there putting themselves on the line every single day. If you like, I've been through. I've been through. Like, I went through one of those drive-through COVID tests. And just like, I'm just thinking about the people that are out there doing it, and they're sticking their hands in your car. Like, I mean, they're all protected with the suits and the gloves, and they got the shields and all that kind of good stuff. But they're literally right in front of the people who potentially have COVID, and they're working with them. Like, just we go out thinking, oh, should we go to a restaurant or not? Where the likelihood is, it's going to be a very low chance of you running into someone if you're taking the proper precautions. But they're literally, the people who have COVID are driving up to them, like, and in
Yes.
their face potentially every single day. So the long-term impact of this is going to be felt for years to come for a lot of people. If you're used to being out and about and working amongst people, and you're forced to be home right now and work from home, and you're not comfortable with that, you're used to that, long-term impact of that can be very real depending on how you handle or manage it. So there's a scare in terms of where mental health will be going for a lot of people, not even just in the current dealing with it, but long term, how they're going to be impacted.
And not all tests are drive-through. Like mine wasn't. I had to like literally go there, wait,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that stuff. And yeah, like as I'm sitting there and getting the thing up my nose, it was like really odd, but
It's so
at that,
uncomfortable.
so uncomfortable. Um, but the only thing that was going through my mind was, okay, yes, I wanted my parents to get tested, so thankfully that happened. But these people are there the entire day, probably doing over 12-hour shifts. They still had a smile on their face, but they
Mm-hmm.
are literally in shields, in the gowns, in the gloves, in like they have their mask on. And I was doing some temporary work where I had to interact with people, so I had to have the shield on and the mask on and the gloves on. And I still remember how uncomfortable I was feeling, and I was like, and I'm layered too, right? Like we this project that we did, we were layered with like everything on us. And I'm gonna be honest. We were kind of bitching about it, like this is so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to wear gloves. Like for us, we felt that uncomfortableness just for those few hours. But at the same time, it hit me. I was like, those frontline workers, like the Thai nurse who like did my test. She's on her feet dealing with that every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Different, like you never know who's gonna walk in or who's gonna be on that drive-through, and they literally do it with a smile on their face. And it really gets you thinking about what is going to be our future. And unfortunately, the mental health world, that sector of our health is going to rise, in the next couple of years.
And I think, yeah, so frontline workers, we got a big shout out and a big thank you to all of them for putting their lives on the line, for sacrificing all that they do, and for being there for all of us. Like, I think it's incredible. And they do get some recognition, but it's never going to be enough. Like, they're doing so much
Never
for all
enough.
of us. So again, just a big thank you from our small team to you as well. Just to add to the, like, to echo what's been said about frontline workers. Like, they're doing some amazing, incredible things. Even the frontline workers at like seniors homes and those sort of things, because they're obviously, they're putting themselves at risk as well. So again, both physically and mentally. So again, a big shout out to all of them for doing such amazing things and for being there for our grandparents and older aunts and uncles and that sort of thing. They're taking a lot of risk by doing that. I was talking to even a couple of friends, who are used to being in certain environments, used to being, really busy all the time, that have, because of this, built time on their hands. And it's impacting them in the sense of, it's really making them downshift and think about their life, and it's turning into a mental health
Mhm.
concern, because it's like, well, I was busy doing all these things all the time, and now that I have more time and I'm not sort of in the rat race and I have time to reflect, I was doing them, but I wasn't happy. I'm not happy doing them. I'm just doing them because I'm used to doing them. I'm doing them because that's my life, the way my cycle is. But I'm not getting the outlet that I need or yearn for, because I don't have the time. I'm just running. I'm just going because I have to go. I'm going because I have to make the next dollar. I'm going because I have to support my family. I'm going because X, Y, like, whatever reason. There's so many reasons. And now that I still have all these responsibilities and I have things to do, but I can't do a lot of those same things, even on a modest scale, because I'm not enjoying them. They're not making me happy. They're making me think about my life in a way that I haven't thought about before. I can continue down this road, but I'm gonna burn out. I can continue down this road, but I'm gonna look back 10 years from now and be like, I made mistakes because I wasn't happy doing what I was doing. And I think this is a big area of focus for mental health, right? And I think it's something
Um,
that we all have to reflect on, because as I was talking to a couple of my friends and they were explaining these things to me, and their perspectives on it and why they were unhappy, it really made me think about, just my life. And because obviously, like, you start to think, like, I'm listening to my friend and I'm listening to them talk about what they're going through, and obviously, being empathetic. But after the conversation finished, it made me sit down and think, say, well, I'm doing a lot of these same things. Like, I'm constantly on the go. I'm constantly running. Am I actually truly enjoying some of this stuff, or am I just doing it because I'm just used to it and that's my lifestyle? Like, I'm just sort of in a cycle of habit, you know. So I think that's a really big thing that people at this, and we've touched on it before, but slowing down and taking the time and reflecting on your things. And we're 6-7 months into this situation for COVID. Mental health is continues to be a concern, but I think now that some people have been forced to slow down, they've been forced to
mhm.
think about these things.
And oh my God, there's so much I want to say on this. Um, so we've had these conversations during the course of the year, and
Hmm.
like a lot's come up, and a lot has shifted or changed. And to what your friends are saying, yeah, and not even I think, like, I know for a fact that during this time, and there were a lot of my clients, a lot of people, or actually that's why I got into this space, a lot of people that ended up reaching out to me or whatever, it was the same thing. You start questioning, what is the purpose of my life? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is this? Am I being, it's not even about being happy. I think people are now starting to question, am I being fulfilled in my
Hmm.
marriage, in my
Hmm.
relationship, with my friendships, in my career, right? And here's where the fear, the anxiety, and a different kind of depression I noticed started setting in, which is, okay, fuck, I'm not happy with my life. I've wasted so many years doing this. I thought it was the right thing to do because society told me it was the right thing to do, whatever the case is. I want to restart. I don't want to do this anymore because it's not vibing with me. At the end of the day, whether you call it vibes, energy, you call it intuition, whatever you want to call it, when you're not in alignment with what you're doing, you start to feel it, right? And then you don't know how to express it, and then it kind of like bubbles up in you, and then you explode in different ways. So whichever way you want to term it, essentially it's suddenly not vibing with you at this moment. You're not in alignment with what you thought your life was. Two options that usually end up coming out of it, right? Sometimes a person can be like, you know what? I'm going to restart. I don't know what the fuck I want to do anymore. I get it. I'm 30. I get it. I'm 40, whatever. It's fine. I'm going to restart. That means I'm going to quit my job. Well, like whatever your version of restarting is, you may have the courage to do so, because I will say for any single person who feels like that and restarts or learns something new or starts shifting where they are today to where they wish they really truly want to be, it takes a lot of courage. It's very scary and it's a very lonely journey because your friends start shifting, everything starts moving. You know what I mean? Like you will not align with the same people because your purpose has changed. So if you're gonna do that,
That's a big fact, because that's exactly what my friend and I were talking about, that they started to realize that as they started to reach out to some of their friends and share what was going on with them, and right off the bat a few of them didn't weren't receptive to having the conversation,
yeah.
and they were like,
And
well, that off the bat tells me what kind of friend they are.
it's not only what type of friends they are, and they could have the best intentions. It's just they're not in that space.
Yeah,
Like, so they're not able to see what your friends are going through, or your friends are feeling, unhappy,
that's exactly the advice I give them.
yeah, like they're not seeing that because
Yeah,
these people at this state of mind,
yeah.
they've not, like, either they're happy with their life and that's their purpose and that's totally fine, like that's what they want,
So
or
they won't
they've not
understand it.
recognized. Exactly. Or they don't recognize that maybe they are unhappy and they might need something else in their life to shake them. You never know, right? Like, no judgment whatsoever for people who feel their lives have not really shifted from this. That's you, and that's what you are here to do. But there are some people who are truly awakening and being like, holy fuck, what's going on with my life? I know I was one of them. And so I can totally relate to that feeling of like, I want to reach out and talk to my friends, and then you become, holy shit, but I suddenly have no friends. I literally talked to three people, to be honest with you, because there were only three people who like get it, right? But it wasn't easy getting to this point, right? It wasn't easy to say, okay, I'm going to restart. So the people who let's say may have recognized that and they want to restart, that's great and that's very brave of you. But then there is a factor of mental illness that plays into that, because you are scared, you have no one to talk to, and feeling lonely and being scared are two of the factors that drive you to increase your anxiety. Then you start feeling delusional because you're like, am I the only one who's going through this? Is something wrong with me? And that could actually lead, and they've said that that does lead to other psychological problems when you don't have an outlet or like a support group to talk to. Now, I'm not saying those who have an awakening all, end up in this state. Like, people can find support groups outside, on social media, or like they do end up finding friends who are going through something similar, so that is formed, or they find coaches or whatever they're going through. Like, that does happen, but I'm saying that that is a factor that plays in. Then there are people who realize this. They're like, I'm not fulfilled with my life. What is going on? But they don't have the means, they don't have the courage to say, I'm going to go reset and restart my life. Because, and this is not in a judgmental way, it's really, if you just step out from this conversation for a minute and think about it. So like, Sadr, if I came to you and I said, okay, Sadr, you know what? Give up your job. You are not fulfilled with your life. You know, do the one thing that makes you happy, the one thing you feel like you're meant to do. And that also doesn't mean like, who's gonna care what your friends think, right? Tell me, are you gonna be like, oh, cool, yeah, dude, I can do it. No worries, I can totally shift my life. You're gonna be like, wait, I'm sorry, you asked me to do what? Like restart? How do I restart? That's gonna be your first question. How do I restart? And can I restart?
Yeah. Yeah. Picking up
Right?
and like picking up and just going without consequences is a difficult challenge for a lot of people. I have a buddy that actually did that. It's a really interesting story. So I've known him since high school. Um, lived in Toronto after school, whatever. Had like he was always a creative guy. Had a corporate job for a while, then freelance for a while. Personal life went in a different direction than he thought. And because of the type of work he did, you know what? He goes, technically, he goes like, I have a set clientele. I'm freelancing. My clientele is like I have contracts with them, and I can do the work I'm doing from anywhere in the world. All I got to do is EMT me my money for the work I complete, and I just dump it into my bank account. So now, literally, 60-70% of the year he lives in Southeast Asia. Like he is enjoying his life as long as he has a computer and Wi-Fi to do the
Mm-hmm.
work he needs to get done, and the jobs he needs to complete. He does them. He lives obviously on a much lower cost scale because it's like the dollar stretches so much further in some of these places. And you should see like his pictures and videos and literally every day, like he's on the water, he's by the beach, he's just you know and like literally he's like, dude, I would not change anything. He's like, I'm living the life that most people wait for retirement for. I'm living it
Mm-hmm.
now through my prime years. I'm getting my work done, I'm making my money. He's like, my parents are healthy and happy, so like obviously like the responsibility wise he's okay. And his zero regret. And he's like, if I had to tell myself, the 10 years ago, 20 years ago, like my younger self, what to do, this is exactly what I would tell them to do. I wouldn't change it. But he's
And
happy.
that's the thing, right? But that's the thing. Like,
He
and
found
I
his
know some
passion. He,
people.
he found his passion. I'm not saying that's the right answer for everybody, but he was
No, no, no.
able to find his passion and his way to go.
and and there are people who live like that. Like, it's stuff we like read about, or we think, oh, these people are scams the way they're living and asking about this type of job or this sort of coaching or whatever. But you've come to realize it's not that. It's realistically, it's so possible to do it. It's coming over that fear, right? Which goes back to my point of, when you think of restarting your life, and your restart, guys, doesn't have to be literally picking up your bags and moving to another
Of
country.
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, his is an
It
extreme
can,
story.
yeah, it can literally be like, okay, I am going to work in this industry, or my relationship is actually not what I want, so I'm going to break up with so and so person. Or I'm not passionate about this project anymore, and I'm going to walk away from it. And I'm
Mhm.
going to take the 6 months or the two, like whatever time I need to really get clear on what I want to do. Or if I have to do soul search, I'm going to do it. And yes, that means I may not live the way I've been living, or any sort of lifestyle I may have been accustomed to. And then you start worrying about your bills and all of those things. But I'm gonna take the time to like figure this shit out, right? Even when you go through that process, there's anxiety, there's fear. Sometimes that leads you to depression, because again, especially as we get older, people are gonna come to you and be like, "I'm sorry, what do you mean you're restarting? What do you mean you want to do? You're
There's always going to
leaving
be
your
the there's always going to be the naysayers and the people that tell you you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that. Whether you're starting a business, whether you're starting a new career, whether you're starting, you're thinking about maybe quitting your job and day trading, like whatever it is that you're looking to do. There's always going to be, and a lot of that we find, mostly, especially in our South Asian community, like a lot of that comes from your parents, let alone anywhere else. So that challenge is going to always be there, I think, and it makes it all the more difficult to move through that process and to and
it
to
it, it
to really find that true, genuine, you know, self of who you are. And the example of our previous guest, she really, like, she turned her life around because she stopped everything she was doing. She was in an unhappy place, and she
mhm,
found wellness, and she found yoga, and she found a place that made her happy. She found a way to turn that into a career at the same time. But her happiness, I mean, she wasn't on our shows, on her camera, saying she's happy, but you can just see it shines through her just as
yeah.
she's speaking. Like, she's in such a good place, and she came from a place of extreme hardship, right?
Hmm.
But it took that shift in making the decision, say, well, I'm not going to deal with this hardship anymore. I'm not going to deal with this depression anymore. I'm going to do something about it. And then she followed what she felt at that time was best for her, and now it's turned her life around.
Absolutely. And you know what it is? I think we all come to that point, right, where we're like, we have responsibilities. We're scared to, crash on our friend's couch and live on a few $100s for that short amount of time to like figure out my life or whatever. And the fear that comes in, and it's not, and yeah, I mean, a huge part is the South Asian culture, but I feel a lot of, um,
I'm
uh,
speaking to our culture, but it's a lot
it's in,
a lot of
it's in
cultures
a
have.
lot of cultures.
Yeah.
It's in a lot of cultures that, that fear of literally living a fulfilled life or living whatever your passion is, it's almost like we can't do that because we are given this whole mindset that your passion does not make you money,
And
right?
also,
So
it
you
doesn't
have to.
it doesn't look good, to to society, to the community. Like you're not representing our family properly. Like all those things, like they'll throw guilt after guilt after guilt on you.
And that plays a huge psychological
It's crazy.
trauma on you as you get older and as you start finding your own way, and as you start and when things happen that make you really question, like, this okay, I mean, in the general public case, it's the pandemic, but I'm sure like a lot of us have had our own like our own moments where we just literally are like, I can't do this anymore. Like,
Hmm.
what the
Hmm.
fuck's going on with my life,
Hmm.
right? Like, we all at some point, I mean, most of us, I shouldn't say we all, at some point in our lives, we come to that, right?
Hmm.
And then that entire shift thing starts. And then that whole like, where to get help from? How do I do this? But the toll that takes on you, on your body, even physically, what it takes on you mentally, it it stays with you for a while if you do not have that support to be like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I think I need to see someone, or hey guys, I'm feeling very, very low. Just having that conversation with your group of friends, or if you have that relationship with your parents or your siblings, your partner, just saying like, I'm not okay, goes a long, long way.
Well, I
It
think
does.
the challenge and also is that a lot of people fear that conversation, from a perspective of not being understood or
Oh yeah.
being looked down upon. Um, so going back to my story about my friend, so when they came to me and they started sharing their story, I mean, they came in and they're like, we got to speak. They're like, I got to talk to you about something, and I'm like, okay, no problem. And so like, I'm thinking, okay, it's a, we'll get together every so often and just chit chat and catch up. So I thought it was just something along those lines. And then when they started to get into the meat and potatoes of their conversation or their challenge or what they're going through, my attention went from, I'm going to give this 50-60% attention to 120% attention, because now, okay, like I know where this is going, and I can catch on to what's happening, and I can catch on to what the underlying message is here. I'm not
Mhm.
happy. I need to make a change. Is mentally I'm struggling. I'm going through something, and that's the reason for it. And to me, like anybody that's close to me, if they're going through something like that, like I don't want to ever be not attentive or not there for them. So, as they started to share that, I was just like, as we were talking, and he's like, we were in the middle of it, and they were like, oh, it's been a little bit of time. Like, I shouldn't take up. I'm like, dude, we can sit here for the next 3 days. I don't care. Just talk. Just share with me what you're
Mhm.
thinking. Let's work out a strategy that you're comfortable with, and let's set an action plan so you can implement it. If you're not happy right now and things are not the way you want them to be, you have the opportunity in this current situation to make those changes, and take your time to figure out what those changes are. It's not a race. It's not like you're making this decision today to figure it out, and by tomorrow you got to decide. You have the time to do it, so take that time to do it. What's going to make you, let's even forget about deciding what that looks like. What's going to make you happy today? If tomorrow you wake up, what does your day look like? Let's not even think past that. what is what is
Mhm.
what is your happiness tomorrow morning when you wake up? And then we spoke about that, and And he's like, I started doing these sort of things, and I'm going to continue to do this because I just loved doing it yesterday morning. I'm like, okay. So then, as long as that makes you happy, you keep doing it. If 3 days from now that doesn't make you happy, just stop it. There's like, don't continue it. It's okay, right? Because right now you're going through a journey of sorting out what is happiness to you. So that will shift. It'll shift a few times, maybe more than a few. It'll shift until you find what that is. And when you find what that is, you'll automatically get into that groove and want to continue to do that. And it'll come to you. It's not gonna be a decision like I said that's gonna happen overnight. It's not gonna be a decision that it could be 2 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years from now. It doesn't matter, right? But as you start to find some of those things, you start to implement them. But take that time to reflect on yourself as to what those things are.
Yes, and I will share a personal story because I think that's going to apply to what your friends are going through and if our listeners are listening. But I before I forget, though, I do want to mention one, if anybody is going through what your friends are going through, or if your friends are listening to this, as you try and find what makes you happy, I would say you're going to more so end up soul searching on what makes you fulfilled, because happiness is going to come and go. It's always going to be your state of mind. It's not something you can really find. And I know it sounds very like cliche, but that's really what it is. It's that happiness is going to come to you as you start feeling fulfilled with your day-to-day life. And I don't want people to think, oh, like fulfillment means like I need to be making like 100K and have like the best of everything and have
No.
my wife and kids or husband, like none of that shit. Like I'm fulfilled and I'm not even close to where I thought I would be at this stage of my life. I'm really
Mm-hmm.
not. But I can say today, compared to where I was last year, I'm a lot more fulfilled as a human being, as a person,
Mm-hmm.
um, than I think I ever was when I had my shit sorted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so just want to throw that, and then and another thing in this pursuit of fulfillment, put in a gratitude practice. And I know, again, we hear that, we see that on social media. It's like, oh, okay, I have to be thankful for this and that. It actually works wonders when you do it the right way, and we can get into that a little bit later because that's stuff I do work on with my clients, and I've literally seen the transformation in 3 days, not
Mm-hmm.
even.
So why don't you
That
talk about
change.
that a little bit? Let's talk about what gratitude, because I don't think everybody understands what gratitude practice is.
So gratitude is beyond just waking up and saying thank you, source, God, universe, whoever you like believe in. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
for today, and just go about your day. Or
Mm-hmm.
thank you for making sure I'm alive. It's beyond that. And one of my techniques that I've used on my clients, or the clientele I'm building, I should say, is every single day, at least for 21 days. And 21 days is because that's how long it takes to change a habit or get into a habit. I tell them to start with 3, but then by the end of the week, we work up to 10. 10 things you're grateful for, but I want you to feel it. So, for example, it's not like, oh, thank you for this day. No, you're gonna actually write, I am so grateful and so thankful that today I'm able to buy my Starbucks. I'm so grateful, I'm so thankful that I have a roof over my head, or whatever it is to you.
To them, to their own
And
personal life. Yeah.
yeah, and I've noticed a lot of people will start with the big things, like, oh, I'm so like I'm grateful that I have my car, I have my job, I have my girlfriend, I have my boyfriend, like whatever the case is. But the real change starts coming in, which is why we start with this. Like we start with 3, we go to 5, then we go to 10, and we build on that. Is when we
It's almost like
start being
I'm
grateful.
understanding it. It's almost like a filter. Like you're starting with the big things and narrowing down to some of the more, like,
People usually start with the big things because that's
yeah,
so easy, right? It's
it
so
comes
easy
to your
to say,
mind.
oh, yeah, it's so easy to say, oh, thank you for for my car, for example, like my amazing car, or like my like new laptop, like, or your fancy gadget, right? It's so easy to be thankful for that right away. But the trick happens, the flip happens is when you are diving deeper, and then you start saying, thank you for my cup of coffee that I made from home. Thank you for the groceries. Thank you for the $20 that's in my wallet right now. Literally, if you open your wallet and if you have $20, just be thankful for that. Not even what's in your bank account, for what's literally in your wallet, like that piece of cash, right? Like all of that. And then when you start adding your friends, that's when you start thinking, oh, wait a minute. Let's say Sadr was in my life. Like, can he help me out? Like let's say if your friends do that and they're going to thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
They start appreciating you. They start appreciating their life.
Mm-hmm.
When you're appreciating your life, you are starting to find that satisfaction and that fulfillment. And as you start finding that, you get clarity. And it's a little bit deeper, like inner work that goes into it. But then you start finding clarity on who you are, who you want to be, and how you can get to that point. And then that fear starts leaving your system. So instead of being like, oh my God, like this is what I want to do the rest of my life, or like how I'm going to get there, or whatever it is, or I'm scared of the journey, blah, 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 that fear of that journey starts going away. And then you start enjoying what you're doing. And when you're enjoying getting to that point, it becomes fun. And when it becomes fun, it just happens a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very simple, and then when that's happening, your mental state's getting better and you start cherishing your own self. So just imagine on how amazing you as a human being are going to feel that every day when you wake up, you're not feeling scared about the future for once. You're looking forward to the future. And you are so appreciative of not only what's around you, but of yourself, that you're giving yourself that love and that gratitude. Why wouldn't, again, whoever you believe in, whatever way you believe in, why wouldn't that happen for you in life?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
literally that's just how it works, right? So that's what I mean by like a gratitude practice is you start with like I say do it like I start with 21 days. I've done it for a lot longer,
Mm-hmm.
and then I've added like other things because that was just what I needed to do, and then what I tell people to do,
Mm-hmm.
and they've told me, right, like when you throw in gratitude and forgiveness, those are two main ones. I'm sure you guys have heard of that.
Yeah.
If not, when you start working on those two components of your life, sounds easy, it's the most difficult one,
It's so
especially when you have
difficult.
to start. And when you start doing the self-forgiveness, get ready for the tears, get ready for like hiding under the blanket for like the rest of the day, but your life starts changing. Um, and
It's
we
almost like
can get into that.
it's almost like they say the calm before the storm, right? Like you got to go through that process of recognizing, appreciating, self reflection before it starts to get better. And some of those things are gonna cause hard thoughts, hard emotions to deal with before you can get to the emotions that are gonna bring the joy and the happiness. Because if a lot of that is pent up, built up inside that you haven't dealt with, and that's why you're going through these things.
And guys, it's a very, very simple visual thought here. How can you have a new house if your old one is not completely broken down? If you're going to build a new house, don't you have to break down the walls
Mm-hmm.
of where you are, right? And only then you can put something new. So when you start going through this process, and again, the gratitude and the forgiveness and the soul searching is literally a quarter. It's like a door that you're breaking down in your house. It's not even a room, it's literally a door that you're breaking down in your house.
Right.
But so you have to do that. You have to break down those walls to build your new house, right?
Talk to me
That's
a little bit about
how you're
like
gonna go.
talk to me a little bit about like I don't want to classify it as journaling, but writing things down in this process as you're going through these the self reflections, the gratitude practice, the forgiveness practice. Talk to me about how journaling and or writing things down plays a role in that.
So it plays a huge role, and then there are two things. So, or two ways to do it. Yes, you can wake up in the morning and scribble all your thoughts down and forget about it and move on. That's a great way to start. For those who do not write things down, I would then recommend what is commonly known as, or as I got into this practice, we call it our morning pages, because it's the first thing when you wake up. It's the first thing that's going through you. You let it out of your system. So like it's almost like you're like doing like a clean slate.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, the other way to journal is not necessarily first thing in the morning. Like you wake up, you have your coffee, your tea, your juice, whatever. You go through your routine in the morning, and then to start with, there are journal prompts. So there's certain prompts depending on what shadow work you're trying to do, where like what are you trying to like bring into your life, or what you want to like figure out. So like, for example, let's say like as you said, like your friends were feeling that they're not fulfilled with their life, for example, at this moment, right? There'll be certain questions um, that are asked that make you start thinking, but you start writing it all down. And the reason why this is becoming popular, or you see people talking about it, is when you're writing things down, one, it's for you. You're not handing it to someone. It's not for your boss. It's not for your partner or anything like that, right? There's no judgment in this. You're writing your own thoughts, judgment free. And then as you start letting go, a sense of lightness comes in you. Like you're just scribbling down. And the thing, it doesn't matter how you feel. That's the best part. It doesn't matter what you're saying. It could be something as like, I'm upset that my mom did not tell me I looked pretty today in my new top, to like, I did not like what happened with my boss, down to that incident last year. I can't believe I actually went through that, or that person treated that person this way. That's just not okay. And then you start figuring out why it's not okay. The why starts happening. And what happens is when you're doing this, you start recognizing your self-value, your self-worth, what makes you happy, what doesn't make you happy. That sense, that purpose of finding your like happiness, or finding what satisfies you, starts coming in, because when shit bothers you, that means it's not sitting well with you.
Right.
And when it's not sitting well with you, what you're essentially doing is starting to put down your values, your boundaries, what's acceptable to you and what's not acceptable to you. And that's not just only about life, that's in your relationships, that's in how much money you want to make, that's in the type of friends you want to have, right? So you start seeing those dots, and then it starts coming together, and then you go like, okay, this is why I was feeling like this. This is why this happened to me. Because to be honest, what you feel internally is your external reality. That is a fact. That's a matter of life.
Whether you say it or not, it's gonna show.
100%.
So talking about like we're coming to the close of our show, but talk to me about one other idea, the benefit of putting it out there in the world. Like for example, if something bothers you slash gives you anxiety slash makes you uncomfortable slash makes you feel, you know, terrible, or your day, this the simple statement of saying, whether it's out loud in the world and no one's around, whether it's to a family member or a friend, or whether you're writing it down in a journal, the simple statement is, this specific situation or this act or this whatever gives me anxiety. This specific act, this situation makes me upset. This what like even if there's no one listening, how important is a simple thing like that?
It shifts your entire vibration, because what you're just doing there, you are validating your own self internally. And the power that comes when you internally validate yourself and you don't care for an external validation, that is how you start stepping into your own power. And that's when you start being like, okay, whatever the world's gonna throw at me, I can fucking handle it, because I know what is gonna cause me to react a certain way. And then when you start being in control of your own emotions, when you start being consciously when you're consciously aware of what bothers you, what doesn't, what you're okay with, what you're not, you are literally changing your vibration. So things will come to you. And if we go back to our conversation of like law of attraction, if from being at this low point, you're suddenly going into a high point, won't you get the high point of stuff in life to deal with, which is what you technically want? So if you're feeling depressed and low, and you have been, let's say, spent your whole life, seeking external validation, like your life will only make sense to you depending on what your friends and your parents and all of them say. But the minute, let's say, you experiment and you're like, you know what, fuck this, like I'm not okay with this. Let's say you're here and you even go 1 inch higher. What's happening here is not going to resonate over here. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how you start building yourself up. Now this is not to say if you have clinical anxiety,
Sure.
depression,
Yeah. 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 Of course.
personality, like this is not to ignore that. This is not to say that this is like don't get medical help. Like by all means,
Absolutely.
these are ways if you have if you are diagnosed like medically and you need to seek the help from a mental
Health professional.
yes, thank you.
Yes.
Do that, but these are tools to help you. And if you're just going through life like how we're all going through right now, these are coaching techniques that are proven, they work. Sawyer, I'm pretty sure you can testify to me who I was last year and
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
sitting in
And it's
front
a
of you.
it's a big difference. And I've seen also Rashi going through this change, both personally and then also just from a professional standpoint. I mean, you've told me, um, that you're able to work with clients or friends now and help guide through them because you've done certain things and achieved certain designations to be able to do that because this is so important to you in terms of the impact it's made on your lifestyle. So that's why I ask these questions because I know you've dove pretty deep into this world. It's made a huge impact for you, and as your close friend, I see that. But also, what's even more amazing is that you took it one step further and said, you know what, I saw the impact it had on me and it's having on me continually. And because I mean, like anything else, you still have challenging days, like we all do. And so
Yep.
it's an ongoing process. But you've been able to transpose that into helping other people start that journey, and
And
that's
I want to, right?
no, no, of
And
course
that's what I
you're doing
figured
it
out.
because it's a
Yeah.
passion for you.
Yeah, and that goes back to your friend's conversation about what am I doing? Like why am I not feeling fulfilled? And that was where I was at a huge part of my life. I was like something's missing, you know?
Yeah, no,
So now
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, so now I figured out he was choking guys by the way on his
I
water. So
was, I
that's why I was
was.
like slowly taking time for him to like swallow and like,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
gotta you
come
have to continue on with the story because I was literally gonna cough up water right now.
back.
Yeah, listen,
Yeah.
this topic is always one of importance. We've had some amazing guests discussing this topic on our show. You and I have had a number of conversations on our show about this, and it's super important every single time. We've gotten direct DMs and feedback from people that have heard our shows on this and saying thank you for touching on this topic. It's just hearing about it makes me feel comfortable knowing about what I'm going through and knowing that it's there's other people and the conversation is an open topic. So it's from close friends that you and I both know. So it's always going to be an important topic, and whether it's a mild situation in your life, or it's a serious situation in your life, or someone close to you in their life. I mean, pay attention to the signals. If you don't feel like you're going through it, pay attention to the signals of those around you to see if they're going through it. Because if you think you're okay and you think that your lifestyle is okay and your mental health is in a good place, that doesn't mean everybody else is around you. Be very cognizant of those around you to make sure that you're helping them and taking care of them too if you're okay. And also just be cognizant of yourself. If you think you're okay and there's things that do bother you, really take some time to understand how much they actually bother you and how much they impact you inside you versus just brushing it off and saying, oh yeah, this pisses me off, whatever, screw it, I'll deal with it, I'll deal with the emotion later, because you just kind of like brush it under the rug. That's also not okay. Take some time to process it and think about it. That's
Yeah.
what's going to help you to deal with it and get over it and get to the point where you can openly even just say to yourself, this situation gives me anxiety. That alone is such a big step.
Huge step, guys. It's a huge step. You know what I mean? Just acknowledging how you feel, and I know we are gonna run out of time soon, so I just want to say this: just acknowledging how you feel,
Big time.
it's gonna change your life, guys. It's
That's it.
really gonna change your life.
So
So
as we said a couple episodes ago, that we're going to spend a few shows, just Rashi and I, just going over some things that are important to us. So this is the continuation of that. We do want to make sure this topic gets touched on regularly in our show. And I'm sorry, but it's our show, so we're going to take advantage of the fact that we have the opportunity to share this, something that's important to both of us. For those, for us personally, and for our friends and family and some people around us that we know that are going through things, it's an important topic. So thank you for taking the time to listen to it, and do share. If you don't share any of our shows, share the ones about this topic, because this topic is super important. just so that if someone may be going through it, know that there's people out there talking about it, know that there's people out there thinking about it, and know there's people out there working through their own personal issues like yourself or with their friends. You're not the only one. You're not going through this alone, is what we want to say. So
Yeah.
use these types of shows and use this show as a means to build that strength that you're strong enough to go through it, and there's other people dealing with similar situations, and we're all here to help each other. Like, everyone's here to talk about it. So even if you want to reach out to us, we're always putting our socials in our description of our show. Reach out to us, DM us. We'll never turn down a conversation. We'll even hop on the phone, have a conversation, be there for you, and just listen, because sometimes that's all it needs. That's my final thought.
You kind of took most of my final thoughts out there, but just to really emphasize everything what Sagar said is true. We're always there if you guys do decide to reach out to us. If not, there's always other people who will listen. And most importantly, if the one takeaway from this is if you're going through something similar, is just try the gratitude practice, guys. Just try the forgiveness practice. Maybe nothing changes, and maybe like, oh, this is all hocus pocus. Maybe something does. What do you have to lose?
You're not losing, exactly.
We've all entered a second phase of a lockdown, more or less, anyway. So use this time, guys. Like, you never know what's gonna happen, and most importantly, just acknowledge how you feel. 100%. How you feel is very, 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 very important. Don't let anybody tell you like otherwise. If they do, send them here, and we'll talk to them.
We'll talk to them. Exactly. So fair enough. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Elevated Grapes. We will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Hey guys, thank you for watching that podcast or that video. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more of us and see some of our behind the scenes stuff, subscribe below.
Yes, hit that little red button thingy that's over there and hit subscribe and keep following us for a lot more cool fun stuff.
Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you soon.